Hello, today we're going to talk about predestination and fate and how it's depicted in Robert Frost's poem, because we read a lot of them. And to start off, we can talk about how many of his poems show an inexorable fate. And that basically means that something happens and it's meant to happen and you can't stop that. It's kind of like a decided fate, which we think is also kind of predestination. Because predestination is about actually like a group of people who have been chosen to have this miraculous life, perhaps. But you can look at it in another way as well, because you can look at it as a decided fate, that something has already been decided.
Yeah, and I agree with what you say. It's completely right about Frost's poem being having this kind of thought behind that we all have a fate and a path that we need to follow, and especially I could see this for one of his most known poem, Out, where this boy, foolish enough, cut his hand off with
The motor saw.
The motor saw, yeah. So from there we could see, like, because of his foolish act, he was supposed to follow that path. Like something bad was supposed to happen to him, because you have to take responsibility for what you do, and also be always careful and not always mess around, play around, everything around you. You always have to be on your top and everything. Yeah.
So you can see that was like a decided outcome based on what he had done in his life, because he was a foolish boy, and that will give you consequences eventually.
Yeah.
And that's also related to predestination, because it's already decided that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's an outcome that's reasonable.
Like Frost had, we can say, an intense life.
We
can also say his children died. All of his children died. Also, some of them in bad ways, and that affected, of course, his life. And we could see that in his poem because of his pessimism he's putting into it. He's making us see fate and predestination as something bad. But as we know, following a path, there are bad things and good things happening. Mm-hmm. Fate could be both bad and good. In this case, he's just showing the dark side of what fate actually is. Mm-hmm. He's not completely saying, fate is, we're controlled by some higher power. He's more saying that fate is something, because he's not really religious. Like, he doesn't bring religion that much into his poem.
No, and if he does, it's mostly ironic, because I don't think he's a very religious person either. Yeah. And because predestination is very, it's connected to religion in a way, because it is in Christianity that we read about predestination.
Yeah.
But then his interpretation of it is more like an inexorable fate.
Yeah, exactly.
As we talked.
But as we also could discuss about this, we could see fate as something positive and negative. Mm-hmm. But still, we can control our fate, kind of. That's what I think. That's what I believe. That fate is something that, if you want to, you can control it and steer yourself. Basically, you can choose your path. Every day is a choice. You have to make a choice every day for even simple stuff. Mm-hmm. But still, you have to make that choice, and that choice will take you to different paths. But still, you will have the fate you'll have, that it's predestined that you will have that fate.
Yeah.
But with the choices you make, it could alternate.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that you can choose your own path, but I do think that you can predict how someone's life is going to be based on how they are as well. Because as you said, people choose different paths. Every day you have to make choices.
Yeah.
And if you make a bad choice, and if you are a person that tends to do a lot of mistakes, it's not going to be surprising if that life is pretty predictable.
Yeah.
For example, if you're the children of criminals, it's not that you can kind of see that maybe this person will also come into the criminal path. However, people are different and people have their own minds, but some people are better than that at actually seeing what is right or wrong and what is supposed to happen.
Usually, depending on what you said about maybe people born in families with issues and stuff, they will be kind of judged by others, and they will have influences outside their life that will influence them. So it can both influence them badly and in a good way, but still if those people only judge in a way based on your family, on your religion, on everything, still will be judged as that person. So you have bad influences on yourself. So that's maybe you tend to follow the path that wasn't meant to be yours, but still you follow it because you're feeling judged by everything else around you. And I believe that also people, they always try to have make the best choices in their lives, because we're kind of like afraid of what's gonna happen, because we can't predict what's gonna happen, though someone or something has already predicted that for us.
That's true, because that brings us back to like the topic: is it someone who is controlling our fate, or is it just that's just how it is? And I think in Robert Frost's poems, he depicts more about that's how it is feeling. It's not a higher power.
Yeah.
It's just how it is, because he is a very literal, I think, realist person, and that's why he doesn't bring up like, oh, there's some higher power that decides this path for me, because I think that, for example, in his poem The Road Not Taken, he is kind of showing that you actually have your own mind, because he chose the path that wasn't as usual for people to do. He was a poet, so therefore he had a choice, but we don't know if that was meant to happen. That was his fate. He was going to be a poet, or if he broke out of what was normal and made his own fate.
No, I believe that also he describes fate as like one of our biggest fears.
Yeah.
Because, or like predestination. We're afraid of what's gonna happen. We don't know. Like we usually think that that's what also everyone around us makes us think. People that do good things in their life and have done everything well, maybe they will have a better fate. They will have they will have a better future than what people that have done bad things will. But that's not really. Like it's not true, I would say, because as we can see from Frost's poem, like, and Frost's life, he like, what would he have done? Like, because
that was wrong.
That was wrong because he wasn't. Is what we could see, because we don't get to know really in detail his early life or everything that had been going on at that time. But he hadn't really done anything that bad. But still, he got this bad luck where his children died, and he didn't know what to do anymore, and he saw only the dark side of his life coming towards him, and he could never see the light in the tunnel. So he's describing his emotions and what he feels into poem, and he's bringing them there, like those memories that haunt him back to those times where he was feeling really bad. And yeah, I believe that fate was his biggest fear, I guess.
I think so too. I mean, it is an interesting thought to think that, in many religious ways, they say that if you do everything right, you will have a good fate, you will have a good life. But as you said, he didn't do anything that bad, and still his children died. Many of his relatives died. So what could this man have done that was so bad that his fate would be so cruel to him?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You can see fate as a thing, but I don't think it is a thing. Fate was cruel to him, but it was more of his. It was an outcome, but we don't know where it was from, because we don't know what he did wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of says that fate isn't really a thing, that it's not really something you can do right or wrong, because very good people can have very bad lives, and very bad people can have good lives. So that's not fair, and that's why the religious way of thinking about it, that good people will have good things, it doesn't hold.
Yeah, well, when something bad happens in your life, you think, oh, well, that was fate. Some people think, well, this was predestined to happen. So some people take it not as bad as some other people may take it.
Yeah.
But it affects people in different ways, because we all are different from each other. And it's really difficult, especially we can see from Frost. Like, all those losses he had in his family and relatives, it really hit him hard. And it's really difficult to recover from it. So fate will always be his fears, because he will always think that something worse even than what has already happened could happen to him eventually.
Yeah, and it did. He died
alone.
He didn't die alone, but yeah, he died.
He died, and of course we all die, but I believe that I don't really know if fate is a thing, or is it just something that we are afraid of.
Yeah.
It's more like
maybe something to blame, actually, as well. That was just fate. That's like, if something bad happens, they could say, oh, that's my fate, instead of actually working hard and trying to switch it around and switch your life around. Such as, if you're like a religious person, you might be too into it to actually see that you can make changes of your own and not just accept things as they are. Because fate is, you can change your fate. I mean, you can change your life.
Yeah, but I believe that you make your own fate. Like, depending on choices, like we already said, because I think we said this a lot of times. I think that actually fate is many choices that are made in our life. They all sum up together to an end.
That's true.
And
I agree.
I don't know. I think it's basically that, and his way of being pessimistic in his poem has like a lot to do with his personal life. That it's really difficult to see the glass half full when you see it half empty.
That's true. So maybe as a summary, Frost has fear. Fate is his fear, and it's very depicted in his poems, and that is the way. That's what we have noticed when we read his poems. It's very pessimistic against fate.
He really writes his poem in a simple way. Like it's really easy to. It's not like
it's not simple. Though,
not that. I mean, not in that way. He hides stuff in his poem and little like always clues.
Yeah.
But still, he writes in a way where we all, in a way, can relate to what he writes.
Yeah. And then maybe if you put the pieces together, many of his poems together, you can see like a life story.
Yeah.
And that's his fate. We saw his fate. We saw his life. So that's it.